So I learned this process. I won't talk too much about it because this is more of a doing than a being. But while we're waiting to see if anybody else comes in, from a friend of mine in Germany who had the woman who taught her was Susan. I think it's Weiner, Wener, and there's tons of neurographics on instructional videos on YouTube, and it's really as we do this, what's called uh, neurographic lines. It's supposed to mimic what happens in our brain, and our brain doesn't think like this unless it's in an agitated state. And so what open focus does, the work that I do in relaxing attention, what that does is move the brain into an alpha state. Well, this is also the visual component to do the same thing. So we're going to soften hi Charlotte, we're going to soften everything that comes out on the paper, and I'll explain it step by step, so there's no thinking. The thing I want to say is just like in our normal life, we have this sense of a doer, and when it doesn't go the doer's way, when life doesn't cooperate, then it has a tendency to get jagged and contracted and all of that stuff. And so the whole thing is about relaxing and softening and relaxing and softening. And when I did the process, I just like, oh, I have to combine this with open focus and see what happens. So it's an experiment today that we will watch the doer take the back seat and let the art create itself. One of the things that is, let me get show you the basics of what we're going to do. The first, in the first few minutes, we're just going to think about or bring an emotion, an uncomfortable feeling, a belief, whatever is kind of niggles, still. And we'll express that in a we'll spend 2 minutes just kind of free associating that. And then we're going to express that in a simple squiggle like that without thinking. Um, and the softening process, and then we'll draw what's called neurographic lines all the way to the edge of the page. So this is a line here. So a neurographic line doesn't follow any particular pattern, and it's got no hard edges. So it comes down like that. Whatever, and we'll do, here's another one. So we'll take that one to the side. Now, if you find your brain going, oh, I'm going to do it this way, turn around and go the other way. Just ignore your thoughts and let it happen. Let it happen itself. And then the softening process, once there's a bunch of instructions, but the softening process, let me do it big. Let's say there's a line here and a line here. When I say to soften the edges, what we're going to do is anywhere there's a soft edge, you're going to round it like that. And this is just that whole softening process visually. So literally every hard edge of the art is softened. And so what will happen is we create cells of color. So that's basically in any, like I said, anytime you find yourself planning or doing, just let that go. And if you have like any of those beliefs, I recommend on the sheet of paper, we're going to write down the limited beliefs, whatever comes out on your paper. I'm going to also suggest that you turn that over and you write down if any limited beliefs come up, like, oh, I can't do this, or I suck at art, blah, 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 blah. so that you can have those, because that's all a program, right? I love to say to myself, we didn't come in with beliefs. We didn't come in believing we were this body. We had to learn that. How did we learn it? Show and tell, show and tell, and paying attention. Woo, our attention has to go, shoo. Oh, that's a hand, that's a hand, that's a hand, that's a hand, that's me, that's your hand, that's your face. And so we had to learn to body identify. And the little brain doesn't put the pieces together and say, oh, this is me, until later 2 and 3 years old. But we were here before that, and we weren't body identified. We saw the whole moment, including the body. And then we had to learn, oh, okay, all right, focus, focus, this is what you are. Focus, this is what you are. Focus, this is what you are. And we start to believe that and it's named through language. This is me, this is my hand. And so our brain learns to cut things out of the seamless whole and name it and think it's an independent object. It's just like the computer screen. The way our brain perceives it is, my face is here, there's a space, and there's a hand, there's everything behind. So we see in perception. But if I were to go, the whole picture would disappear. There's actually not anything separate on the screen. It only appears that way because we have a meaning making machine that goes, Donna, face, cheek, skin, a myriad of names for this object. Debbie, can you mute, please, hun? And Leslie, too. Just everybody mute for now. Thanks. Okay, so this process is about going before, and we learned who we were. You were given a name. I'm Donna. You're Donna, your body. So they were naming the body, naming this aspect of you. But before you were given a name, who were you? Before you could think, who were you? Were you a boy? Were you a girl? So we have all these concepts about what we are. And this process allows those to take a hike. And the art creates itself without this control that we've learned to implement. So as we write down these beliefs, they are just inherited. Somebody taught me I was not only a girl, but I was a bad girl. And I made that, and I believed it. But wait a minute, that's not how I come in. That's what I was taught. And so in my adult life, I go, wait a minute, did I actually trust, in hindsight, do I actually trust the people that were taking care of me to define who I was? That would be a big fat no in my case. Um, and so this is examination. But who am I? If I hadn't been taught that who I am is not okay, who would be here? That's such an interesting question. Before the beliefs, before I believe what somebody else taught me about me, who was I? And so hopefully this process will actually give us an experiential experience of this. Awesome. So, any questions before we begin? And you'll have to unmute yourselves to ask a question. No, hi John. Good to see you. Okay. Pull up my little instructions. Why isn't that working? Let me go here. There we go. Okay, so wait a minute, that's not it. There we go. Okay, so let's just open the focus for a moment. See what this moment looks like in the eyes of a baby before you learn to think. So just in this moment, notice where your eyes are focused and notice that they are probably focused. Notice how they're focused and what they're focused upon. And if you were a baby, you wouldn't see anything. You wouldn't see an object. You would see a shape and a color. You wouldn't know what anything was. So just notice the shape and the color. Absent of the meaning, absent of the word placed on it. And then notice that that is surrounded by other shapes and colors. And then those shapes and colors are surrounded by more shapes and colors. And notice what has to happen to the way that you're looking in order to see a wider picture. It's just like a camera lens. So again, relax the camera lens again, and you can actually have an experience of what it's like to let go of a narrow focus. We call that peripheral vision. But keep the vision going until you can, that vision sweeps behind the body, and the body is now included in the picture, the parts of it that you can see. You could even hold up your hands and notice, wow, hands are part of the picture along with everything else. It's one picture, and the body is in the picture. Babies don't know I am this body. They experience the body as part of the picture, and they see the whole picture. And what is it like to now have the lens fully open to see everything that can be seen, including the body, in the moment? Now, most of us are so habituated to a narrow focus. Just notice if the attention narrows again, you can just relax the camera lens. Oh, there it is. Body's included in the image of now. And you might notice that everything slows down a little bit. You may get a sense of quiet. The thinking may settle. And that's okay if that's not true too. The thinking may speed up. But that's, to a baby, just a sound. The sound of a voice, just like the sound of this voice. And just like you relax peripherally in seeing, you can relax the lens that you're listening out of and hear not only the sound of my voice, or perhaps the sound of the voice of thinking, but any other sounds that may be in this one moment we call now. So often we think thoughts are inside, other sounds are outside. But when you listen to all sounds equally and simultaneously, can you see that even the thinking voices in the inside, perceived inside, are part of the soundscape? They're all inside. But what are they inside of? This voice arises and disappears. Into what? Out of what? would that be silence? We never pay attention to the full expanse of silence that all sounds are happening in. What happens when you do? This is the way a baby listens. And then in this wide open view, just allow any bodily sensations that may be there to also be part of the picture. And from this wide open space, I'd like you to take your paper and your pen. And this is not going to be thinking. This is going to be inviting a thought to come up and then writing that thought down. Watching it go on the page, listening to the sound of the voice, and it's what you were taught. It's not necessarily true. So just on the page, I'd like you to ask, what beliefs are in there? What feelings are in there that I've been taught that just aren't who I am or aren't necessary anymore? And I'd like you to take about 2 minutes to do this process. They can be words, they can be short sentences, whatever comes out, just listen and dictate. Listen and dictate. Notice that those words come out of the silence. Can you pay attention to both the silence and the words that are arising? When things stay in our heads, we don't question them. We don't remember, this is just what I was taught. But what's in there? What's in that program of what you were taught that no longer serves, that causes suffering? Take about 30 more seconds. Good. Now take a break and just look down at what was written, at what came out. This is what is in the brain. And in this moment, I just want you to ponder for just a second. Are you that belief that you were taught, or are you that which is observing those thoughts? When that thought arises, were you that thought, or were you listening to that thought as you write them down, are you those black or whatever color squiggles on the page, or are you the one witnessing them? You see, we think we are those thoughts. That's what the belief is. But in this moment, are you the one that heard the thought? Are you the one that sees the thought? Now, I'd like you to circle 3 of those words or concepts, the ones that are most compelling, the most desire to let them go. And then on your page, without thinking, just watching the page and watching the crayon, I want you to drop into the feeling of that belief. So just repeat that belief in your mind. Notice you're the one listening. And then drop down into the felt scent. And I want you to feel what happens when that thought happens. More than likely, there'll be a bit of a contraction, maybe a little painful sensation. Just notice. And then from that feeling, put the marker to the page, and I want you to scribble that feeling without thinking. Three of those things. So each time you look at the concept, you drop into the felt sense. What does it feel like when that thought is believed? Oh, there it is. And then just from that, just scribble. 3 different scribbles, wherever you want. Now you don't ever need to remember which is which. Now on those scribbles, just make sure you used kind of a thicker black marker, or grab your thicker black marker and just go over that so it can be, if any lines are too thin. Too thin makes it a little more tedious. And just raise your hand when you're done. Wonderful. So the next step, whether you need to do that or not, you can listen to the next step. So choose all the loose ends of the scribbles to the edges of the paper in random wavy lines. Remember to watch the process happening just like we watched the thoughts we wrote down, just watch the squiggles come out. And if the mind comes in and wants them to go to a certain way, just turn around and go the other way. Just let it be organic. It's almost like we're letting the body do the art rather than the mind. It doesn't get to be the boss today. Take them all the way to the edges. If you have any points, that's considered the end of a line. Any. Now add more random wavy lines all across the paper. They can go anywhere you like. You have a question, Leslie? Unmute, dear. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying, sorry. Random wavy lines, are they supposed to go off the page as well?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. And when you said from a point, like if I have come up like this, like a line that I've drawn, it goes up and then down, that's a
Yes.
point and I take it off.
Exactly, that's a point.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And then the next thing we do is grab a little bit thicker black marker, and we're going to put a circle around each of the scribbles. They can be as big or as little as you like. You can trace over some of the lines, but we're just going to get a little bit thicker marker and make circles or ovals around our squiggles. And just keep doing the circles and the squiggles until it just like, I'm done. It's a very intuitive process. And again, just, is it possible as you do this to notice the edges of the page? And you watch the whole page and perhaps the surface that the paper is on as the circling process happens. If there are any thoughts, any negative beliefs or beliefs that arise that you would like to get out of the shadow, just write them down. I noticed that. Is it possible to notice the sound of what is it like to have the marker or whatever you're using draw on the page? And is that sound occurring right along with the sound of my voice? And you can say, what other sounds are here? The magic question. You can always ask to relax the lens of attention, especially if there's rumination or overthinking. You can go, wow, I noticed the sound of my thoughts. What other sounds are here? And immediately, by relaxing the way listening is happening, the brain changes, the brain waves start to relax, and that rumination slows to the point where you can actually hear rather than believe what it's saying. and question it. You might notice if there's any feelings attached, any sensations arising, emotions arising in this process. Any beliefs like, oh, am I doing it right? I wish I hadn't done that line, but notice the lines are just coming out. Really, is there any right or wrong to black marks showing up on the page? Or is that just a habitual way that we learn to judge? And when that's done, just take a look and see if there's any points or more squiggly lines that are asking to be drawn. Now, the softening process. So wherever you see an angle, we're going to soften that angle using our marker. So let me give you another example of that. So if you have a squiggle like that and a squiggle like that, then this is a hard angle right here. And you just come in and you soften that angle. Soften. 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 Does that make sense? Now I'm going to, and you want to do that, and you have to look pretty close for them. With every angle, astute angle that you can find on your drawing. And is it possible to notice that as you look for the angles to soften, that you could see the whole page instead of just the angle? Noticing any thoughts that may arise. And as we start to soften these angles, just imagine the same thing is happening with our brain waves. When we are contracted or experience contraction in the body, in the felt sense, automatically the brain waves change. But when the mind becomes slower, there's a relaxation. The thoughts relax, and at the same time, the body relaxes. So really, we've learned to contract by paying attention in a focused way. But what if we didn't have to focus in that way? What would it be like to see the whole page and the rest of the room and witness the hand moving? Watching the whole picture, so you're almost relaxing attention so you can watch the body draw in this now moment that's happening with everything else that can be seen. So often we forget the body is included in the picture, but what is it like right now? Just like we looked at the beliefs on the page. Isn't the same thing happening when we watch the hand drawing? Now, if some cells are too little, you can actually just color them in. You can fill in the cells that are too small. And if at any point in time anyone has any questions, then please feel free to ask them. I wish I could figure out the music, but oh well. I may be able to. Can you all hear that at all?
I hear one note.
Okay. No worries. If you'd like to put on lovely music of your own, since mine is not working, feel free to. Or you can just enjoy the silence. Is it possible to notice when the lens of attention narrows? What happens to the speed of thinking when the attention narrows back down? Or does it narrow back down to thinking? Just remembering everything that is being thought and all the contractions that arise because or co-arise with those learned beliefs or learned responses. But what would it be like to be able to watch and hear the thoughts and feelings as they arise, as part of the moment that's being seen and heard? being the witnessing. Most of us don't even know about the lens of attention because it's so habituated to pay attention in a narrowed way. Generally, on our beliefs, on something we were taught that may or may not be true. But what is a belief except a thought repeated again and again with a feeling that co-arises? It's my experience that the mind thinks when there's a contraction around a thought, that the thought is true. That's why there's a contraction and it makes the thought feel true. But what if the contraction happens because it's our body saying, that's not true, and that hurts when you tell me that. Perhaps pain happens by believing that the contractions mean truth. Our bodies become a truth meter. But instead of them contracting on what's true, they contract on telling us, wait a minute, that's not true. If you've ever had the thought, I'm not enough, or any of those thoughts that you wrote down, really pay attention. Really pay attention. The body will contract against that. Why? Well, if a little child was standing in front of you and you told that little child, you're not enough, you don't matter, what do you think the reaction would be? Is that thought true about that child? Is the child contracting because that thought, that comment is true, or is it contracting because it hurts and it's not true? What if our own bodies are doing the same thing? What if every pain and contraction we felt is because we've believed something about ourselves that someone taught us that are not true? What if every time we thought something about somebody else and it caused contraction, it caused anger, it caused pulling away? What if that's our bodies just saying, whatever you're believing is not true? And I hurt because you're not seeing the situation properly. But our minds say, oh no, I'm seeing the situation properly. He's an asshole. What is that? Maybe our bodies are trying to tell us, oh, that person is just contracted because they're believing something that isn't true. It has nothing to do with me. What if we could see every time we were angry or upset, or every time somebody else is angry or upset, that it's just an alarm clock, our truth meter, saying, hey, what's your program? What's in there? And what if the only way to see a different perspective is to zoom out? To zoom out and look at the situation from the eyes of who you were before you learned that you were a body or a thought. What if you could look at the situation from silence? Prior to thought, prior to believing I am this body and I'm separate from the moment. What if all fear came from the belief or beliefs that we learned from someone we trusted but we shouldn't have? Someone also in fear. What if we could soften our focus just like these lines are being softened on the page? What if, when there's contraction, we could use that? Oh, there's a belief that's not true. What is it? And we sit down. We open, we listen wide so that we can hear what's in there, that we can identify and question. And just right now, just notice, are you watching the body, the hand, the marker? Are you watching that create itself? Or is there a sense that you're in the body creating something? And if you have the sense that you're in the body, can you just relax the way you're looking until you see that the body is in the picture along with everything else, and the body is drawing. But you're the one that's seeing that the body is drawing. You're the one that's hearing the thoughts. So all we're doing when we relax, the way attention is being paid, is returning or remembering who we were before we learned what we were. Is it possible to notice the sound of my voice floating in and out of silence? It's not necessary to pay attention to my voice. Just trusting that whatever needs to be heard will be heard. It's all about relaxing the lens. And if the sound of my voice causes contraction, what is that belief? And you're welcome to turn off the speakers if it feels distracting. But is it possible to notice that when you're listening, there is no thinking, or you're listening to the thinking, but the listening itself, is there any noise to the listening? Or is it quiet? We think meditation is something we do. What if it's our natural state before we learn to think? If we're sitting here listening to the thoughts, isn't that a quiet mind? Didn't you come in as a baby with the inability to think? Why would we think that ever left? We just forgot because of the way we pay attention. But if you relax the way you're listening, and you listen to the sound of this voice arising, disappearing, into what? Into what? And cannot you do that in every moment? Relax the way you're seeing. Relax the way you're listening. And then letting any contraction just be free. We so often worry about safety. But babies don't worry about safety because all they know is what's happening in this moment. They don't have the ability to worry about a future because they can't think. So your true nature, the silence, is fearless. Prior to body, prior to learning, the only thing I am is the body. But we did not identify with the body before age 2.5 or 3. But do we think about that? Do we ponder who we were before we were given our beliefs, before I was told I was a body? Wow. And when we relax attention, we get to experience our essence, our true essence, that never left. It only appears to leave when attention narrows and we think what happens to the body happens to me. But just in this moment, in the silence between the sounds of these words, the silence in between each thought, the listening to them, does any sound ever affect the ability to hear? Just check it out in your own experience. Does hearing, listening ever go away? You can hear silence, you can hear sounds, you can hear thinking. Even if the ears were plugged up in a deprivation tank, you would still be able to hear thinking. Huh, what's that about? How is it that thinking can, how is it that listening can still happen when my ears are plugged up, when I can't hear anything? How is that possible? We were taught it's ears that hear, but if hearing is not dependent on ears, if I can still hear and my ears are plugged up, that just doesn't make sense. But we don't question what we were taught. We don't relax out of our views, out of our body identification, because we don't know how to examine what's actually happening without the ability to think about it. And you can't try to stop thinking. Trying is the opposite of relaxing. It's focusing. And you learned to be this body by focusing. I am this body. I am the one drawing. But you relax the way you're looking and see that the body is part of the picture of now. And you can see the body, you can see the paper, you can see the rest of the moment. Huh, isn't that curious? And every time we soften one of these lines, what is that but relaxation? When thoughts relax, we hear silence. When the body relaxes, we feel safe. So, what is the medicine to distress, be it mental, be it physical? What is the medicine? Would it not be relax? Not just the muscles of the body, not just the sense of self as body relaxing, but relaxing attention till you see that the body is part of the picture. that the thinking is part of the soundscape and that there is something prior. And if there's something prior, then we have to experience the space around the contraction. We can't see the contraction from the inside of the contraction. You can't see that the whole body itself is drawing. If your body identified, then it feels like me drawing. It's my hand. But where's that my? Where's the owner of the hand? Mm-hmm. Or when you relax attention and include the whole body, is the hand just moving on its own? Do you really know where the next line is coming from? Isn't it possible to draw in the absence of thought? What is it like? Maybe we've never, ever, ever let creation create itself, although that is what happens. Perhaps thinking takes credit for something it's not responsible for. And what if we could just relax and watch the show rather than try to control it? Softening. As the lines are softened, so are the beliefs. What is it like to know when you hear the silence that these words are coming out of? That's you before you learn to think. Before you learned that you were responsible, that this body is responsible for so much that it's not responsible for. We're taught it's eyes that are responsible for seeing. But if you close the eyes, like if you looked at your picture and then closed the eyes and imagined it, wouldn't wouldn't you still be able to see it even though eyes are closed? Isn't that a little freaky that you were taught it's eyes that are responsible for seeing and yet you close your eyes and you can still see? Isn't something fishy about that? What is this thing we call seeing? Does it really belong to a body? Or is the body seen? Just check it out in your direct experience right now. Just open. Open the way you're looking. And isn't the body seen and the environment that you're in seen? Isn't the hand and the marker in the page and the torso and the computer screen, isn't it all seen? But do we ever say, by what? By what? How can eyes be responsible for seeing if seeing occurs when eyes are closed? maybe what we were taught isn't true. So as you watch, see the hand on the page. Can you also pay attention to seeing? If the body is being seen, along with everything else, isn't seeing more like a bubble or a field? Like containing everything it sees? Wide open, not restricted to the shape of a body. What is this seeing? So interesting. We bring attention narrows onto what's seen because we think we have eyes, and so the lens of attention shrinks to what we call eyes. But in this moment, as we're examining seeing, what's your experience of eyes? Can you see them? What I notice is a sensation. If you were to bring your attention to eyes, the sensation, and continue to draw and move, open the attention to the whole room, to the whole thing. See the body. And now move the eyes and see if the page that you're looking at or anything else disappears or changes without moving the head. Or is the eyes just attention? Just attention. A contraction in the felt sense. Maybe that tension is not necessary after all. Maybe the tension that we call eyes could relax completely, and seeing would still be happening. Have you ever heard about people who regain their eyesight? Perhaps it's just because the tension that we call eyes relaxed, softened, just like the lines on the page are softening. What if no tension? If tension arose because of beliefs that aren't true, wouldn't it be amazing to experience every time we notice tension, we could relax? What if we could relax the bodily tension that fights against seemingly the tension or contraction that was created by false beliefs. What if when a false belief arises and there's tension that we know, oh, a signal to relax what can be relaxed. So if some tension from an old belief is trying to come up and come out to be released in the safety of the wide open seeing, what if the eyes, the jaw, the shoulder, the arms, the chest, the belly, the back could just not clench against that which is trying to release? What if there were any practice to be practiced? Relax. It reminds me of the prayer, the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Perhaps that difference in the context of what I'm speaking about is the difference between being able to notice that which is trying to be released, the energy of contraction, emotional contraction, between the body-mind contracting against that which is trying to be released. God grant me the serenity to let the discomfort of relaxing beliefs be here. The courage to let go of the danger signals in the brain and relax the body against the discomfort of emotional pain, of identification, and the wisdom to know the difference. Perhaps there's no control of the emotional discomfort trying to be freed. But it seems like there is a mechanism that can invite the physical clenching against the emotional clenching. I could be wrong. It's just what I've been investigating in the simplicity of the instruction to relax. So as we soften these lines, we allow them to relax. I just saw that there were two people I didn't see before because hi Antonia, hi Kelly. So good to see you. I will. You are hiding because I have it on spotlight. And just because this workshop is over doesn't mean you can't embellish your drawings. Usually when I do this, it's about 3.5 or 4 hours. So if you'd like a little break, please feel free to take it or continue. And in about 5 minutes, we'll move on to the next step. And you can always go back and soften, always go back. But I just want to have time to complete. So let's take 5, and I'll see you back here in a moment. All righty. You all having fun? Okay, I think a couple of people. I'll repeat the exercise when the next instruction when the other people come back, just so you can get started. So next, in a again a thicker marker, we're going to draw one or more lines from the upper rim of the page to the lower rim, and you can incorporate the lines you already have. That's fine, but do you just want to? Thanks, Antonio. Do you just want to do two or more lines? One of them can be thin, one of them can be, but two of them have to be thick. But as many lines as you want, going up and down the page. And when you finish that, then you soften those edges as well. Cool. Kelly, did you hear that okay? Okay, no problem at all. I said I just wanted the people that were here to start all over. So let's and Charlotte's, oh, there's Charlotte, been here before. I mean, is there anybody else? Let me look, because I can't see everybody at once. Wonderful, everybody else is back. Okay. So we're now drawing two or more lines from top to bottom using a thicker marker. And just noticed if you had any beliefs when I held mine up, that's also just notice, oh, did I do it wrong? Oh, that's better, or mine's better. Just notice any of that programming that's not you, that just gets in your way all the time that we haven't questioned. Um, it's so good to look at, especially in creative type of situations, because we were all hurt around our creativity. I wasn't very much, but a lot of people were. And they say that your creativity stops at the age you were hurt around it. Um, so we were never allowed, those of us who were hurt were never allowed to express it. So thick lines, two of them, you can use pre-existing lines. So I could make that one into that one, into that one, and follow it all the way down. At least two. You can have more than two. And two of them need to be thick, but the other ones can be varying thickness. And then we come in and we soften those as well. So again, after our break, just notice how attention is being paid. It's so habituated to go back to a narrowed lens of attention, but is it necessary? And it's not. The lens of attention is very functional. We need it for to exist in the world as a body mind, but we don't need it for emotional reasons anymore, because our past is over. What we were so afraid of. I mean, if you look up in this moment, where's the threat? These body minds are programmed not to feel safe, but how can we know they are safe unless we fact check that? And where is the only place that you can fact check safety? Like right here, right now. And what you have to do to really check it is what? Look at the whole moment. The body included. Am I safe? Well, yes, there's complete safety in this moment. What about in what I can hear? Complete safety. So if there's discomfort in the physical body that's coming up in the safety of the moment, then you know it's the past. You know it's a belief system that's not actually happening here and now. And what do we do when that happens? The one and only thing, relax. Relax against that belief that I'm not safe coming up to be released in the safety of the moment. Back to our true nature. And then we could ask another question. Is what is seeing my true nature prior to body identification? Is the part of me that's seeing everything? Can it ever be affected by what's seen? Can the part of me that's listening ever be affected by what's heard? That's how you fact check safety. And you go, no, oh my goodness, there's an aspect of myself that is never threatened by what arises in experience. The body mind can clench. There can be thoughts, worrisome thoughts, but what's listening to those thoughts? Are you the thoughts? Or what's listening? It's funny, I just realized for the recording it's going to be kind of boring because I'm doing art at the same time. So I look down. But I always like to listen to things. When I was a child, when this body mind was a child, I used to get in trouble with school because I was a doodler. And what happens is each of us has a proclivity to a certain sense to recognize the truth of our being. And that's, I think, why there's so many, consciousness, silence, seeing, listening, noticing. It's like there'll be a certain resonance that allows attention to relax into awareness. And for this one, it was always silence. It was always listening. In fact, visually, it would be too jarring. And so there's some people like in the headless way where seeing is the way in. Seeing. Listening to silence, experiencing stillness. So there's a way in that seems to work better. But we can flip those around too. Let me play with awake. Am I awake? Is there an awakeness here? Is there an alertness? Is there an aliveness? Is there seeing? And so when I was little, I used to doodle in school and they would think I wasn't paying attention, but it is the way I paid attention because I was listening. And they would say, pay attention. I'm like, I am paying attention. What did I just say? And I would be able to repeat it verbatim because that was my way in. It wasn't visual. So what I love that's come about, and Dr. Femi's was more in the felt sense, who I learned open focus from. And so in my own journey, what became evident is we can relax in all the sensory fields. And a combination of those, relaxing visually, relaxing the way we're listening, and then opening and relaxing the way we are sensing. I mean, smelling could be in there too. That's not a dominant one in my experience, but it might be for somebody else. Then accessibility is deepened because we're taking three different ways to see it, although it's one. Examining it independently from each other is, I find, very beneficial. So in any moment, you can relax the way seeing is happening and you see the whole moment, and then that the body is in it. Boom, there you go. You can listen. to the whole moment. There it is. And then you can notice what's here in the felt sense. To me, in my experience, that is the most challenging, especially if there has been a lot of forgetting, because as we've discovered today, the body clenches, the felt sense clenches against beliefs that aren't true. And so, to the degree that, someone believed it or traumatized, to the degree that we believe that what happens to the body happens to me, to the degree that that's believed, is the degree that we suffer. And so, in my experience, proving that I just simply cannot be like the body mind is what I learned I was, but there's something else, there's something prior, and that's the part that's free, never touched by any of it. But the moment I think I'm this body or a thought, because the body's made up of thinking, and the body's made up of sensation, and the body's made up of shapes and colors that aren't separate. But the moment I think I identify with a thought or identify with a sensation, then I think what happens to the body happens to me. And then there's suffering. So the more ways we can prove, oh, I'm that which is watching the body. Like right now, we just relax the way we're listening, looking until the body becomes part of the visual moment of now. So we're actually looking at the whole moment as one thing, just like a baby would, just like that. And we do the same thing with listening. And then if we're having any thinking, it becomes part of the soundscape. It's just a voice. And then we allow what the mind perceives as danger, which is being uncomfortable, when repressed feelings start to surface. Danger, danger. But it's not dangerous. Our brains just perceive it as danger because at one time it wasn't safe to feel. It wasn't safe to be who we are. Don't be that way. And when it's not safe to be who we are, then we start to build another personality in order to get our needs met. We become who other people, who we perceive, we become who the thinking, the meaning making machine perceives to be safe, to get its needs met. So we become who we think other people need us to be or want us to be in order to stay safe, to get our needs met, to get love and attention and affection. And then we have a split from our original design of body mind. And we develop a persona based on the perception of how we think we need to be. And so this work is going through all those layers and saying, oh, who am I really? What was this body mind supposed to be under the adaptive layers, under the protection? We start excavating. But we can only excavate from a larger view because that's how we see the smaller view. And what does that take? Relax. Okay, let's see what I'm gonna make. Okay, we can finish this later too. Now somewhere on the page, as large or small as you want, begin with a thick marker. We're going to draw one other circle. Doesn't matter where. And then we're going to round the colors, round the edges out. But for the sense of time, does anybody have to go right at noon? Okay, wonderful. Well, if we go a few minutes over, that's okay. If we go a few minutes over, that's okay with everybody? Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Because this workshop is usually like 4 hours, and I was like, how am I going to do it in 2? But we're trying. So draw that other circle, and instead of softening the lines now, we'll move into the coloring process. And have your markers there. And again, this particular one, when I learned it, it suggested to use blues and yellows, but I found that too restricting. So I say, do what floats your boat. So once you draw that circle, then you can start the coloring process. And the deal with the coloring process is there can be no lonely cells. And what that means is 2 of the little shapes have to be the same color. And you don't have to, white is also a color, and you don't have to stay within the lines. So that, and that's it. And then when you think you're done, you're done. So yes, Charlotte? Oh, I thought you said something. I'm sorry.
I'm saying something. I don't
Oh,
understand what you mean by 2 lonely colors. Can you show us an example of what you mean by that?
you mean 2
Two,
no lonely cells? Is that what you're
right.
talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so each of these patches of white is a cell.
Yeah,
And so if I colored this cell blue, either this cell would have to be blue or this cell would have to be blue.
got it. Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And when you look again, you can fill in any of the smaller cells if you'd like to.
DonnaLou.
Oh, let me see who's something. Oh, is that you, Charlotte?
It is. I
All
am
right.
stuck. I can't figure out where to put a circle. A big,
Anywhere, just close your eyes and put your finger there.
okay, got
And
it.
it can run over other lines. It doesn't matter. It can intersect. You can put it anywhere.
Okay.
Thanks, Charlotte. She's done this class many times, so she's a veteran. Send it to me when you're done, and don't forget to draw your words at the end. You know what I mean by that? Spend 2 minutes to see what comes out in your words at the end, just like we did at the beginning. I hope that makes sense. And I find I go back to several of them, and I'll do shading, and so you certainly don't have to be complete with this process when our time is over today. Sometimes I'll put little dots or all kinds of things. I think if you looked at the video, you'll see that I sent. Just notice where attention is now. Are you the body drawing or are you watching?
So DonnaLou, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When you said two cells couldn't be single or something.
Yeah.
So I am coloring with blue. Does it need to be the same blue or can it just be
No,
another
it could
shade
be
of blue?
any color of blue, any color.
Okay.
If you want to stick with what she suggested for the algorithm, it could be any color of blue, any color of yellow.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. And when you're done, whenever you're done, not today, but when you feel like your drawing is complete, whether you want to embellish or not. Oh, let me put my email address in here. Send it to me. And I'll make a little slideshow. Send it to me via email. And I'll make a little slideshow that we can share. And there we go. All right, color. Whoops. Just notice the way that you're listening. If attention has narrowed back on to the sound of thinking. And just ask yourself the magic question, what other sounds are here? And watch what happens. In order to answer that question experientially, it's like the lens is almost when we put all the fields together, it's almost a three-dimensional experience, even though there's really no dimensions to it, the perception. When that lens relaxes into awareness. And then we go one step further and say, and follow one of the sounds. Where does it come out of? Where does it disappear back into? And then can we just get really curious about that silent space, that listening? Is there a difference between silence and listening? And how big is it? How wide is it? Is there any sounds outside that we really know? We think there are other sounds happening beyond this moment, but if you were a baby and not being able to think, you wouldn't know that. It would be an imagined world. What is the experience of listening wide?
I have a quick question.
Please.
Would you like those cells be connected by the longer wall, so to speak, lines, or can they be connected through those, so to speak, corners also? How
The
do they have
line,
to be connected not to be alone?
the lines just have to be from top to bottom, you know? And
No, I mean when you color the cells,
oh yes,
how do you, okay, to make them not alone, you said, I don't
yes.
remember. Do they need to be connected with those longer lines, or can they be connected through the corners? See, that's what I kind of did, you know, so they are connected through those corners, or
Yes.
I don't know how to call it. Yeah. Is it okay too, or?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Welcome. There's so many questions that we can ask about the invisible. Because most of us have spent our whole lives, well, I can only speak for me, but a lot of other people that I've shared with have spent our whole lives not noticing silence, not noticing how to notice silence, because attention was so narrowed onto the noises. Attention narrows onto movement, not stillness. If you ever walk down a busy street, the attention goes to that which is moving, including the body that's moving, rather than the stillness, or rather than the container for the whole moment. We think the body mind, when we learn to body identify, we think the body mind is the container. But we don't say, but what is the body mind contained in? Ah, the moment. So now these pent up, repressed, whatever you want to call them, contractions, if we body identify and we have a lot of emotional stuff that needs to come out, it stops at the container of the body. But what if the body is not a container for energy? It's made. It is a container, but what if it's not what if it's not the be all end all container? What if when we're feeling contractions and offering those to relax, what if this repressed stuff is trying to relax in the whole moment rather than in a skin line, and we don't have to stop it? We need the sensation of the body to execute tasks, but do we need the clenching of the false beliefs? What if we can relax the physical body against the emotional energy that's trying to release? Where do we go? Oh, okay, go free. You have the whole container. So that sensations could be very sound like they're scattered, about sound here, sound there, but they're all happening in the same soundscape. What if we could do the same thing for sensation and lose that this body sensation is me? And say, actually, I'm not in the body is in me. How do we do that? We see the containers, we hear the container. And then we allow, say, this, here, go free. This is the container, honey. Not limited. And the moment has no edges. Does silence have edges? Does listening have edges? Some of us have the experience that there's no one listening. Listening just is. But others have the experience, I am. I'm listening. Not as a body, as listening itself. And that's the I am presence that many teachings point to. If you ask a little child before identification, who's listening? I am. That's our true nature, that feeling of I am without anything on the end of it, without any definitions on the end of it, without any nouns on the end of it. Just notice what it's like to have a different experience of a sense of self. Like, doesn't the little senses of self, the me thought, the personality that we learned by words, by thinking, by definitions, like that's one sense of me. And then that sense of me calls the body myself. So if you ever hear anybody saying, I don't like myself, I'm hard on myself, that's because there's two senses of self. Neither of them are actually what we are, but one is made of mental stuff, and one is made of sensation. And the mental me, if it's somewhat tortured, as I said, that creates contractions on top of contractions in the physical body. We probably ever won't lose our sense of, unless they're sleeping, in the waking state, of our sense of self as body, but it stops being me, because that mental definition of who we are, especially if it's limited, which is what splitting off from ourselves, from our true nature does. Maybe that's what we call someone who's enlightened, is that still the ability to think, just not the ability to identify. So we're often taught it's thoughts are the problem or sensations are the problem. But actually, it's the identification with them. It's what we were taught. I am this thought. I am this body. Me and myself. Me, myself, and I. That's the one that's forgotten because it's invisible. But today's all about making visible the invisible, listening to silence, noticing stillness. What's the movement of the hand, the coloring movement? What's that being held in? Is it moving? That which is watching? That which is listening, is it moving? Ah. So there's a changeless aspect of creation. Look at what's been born on the page, been created. In what? Where did it come from? Maybe the body mind is the paintbrush. Just like we said, we're made in the image and likeness of God. Well, when the hand draws the picture and we say, oh, that's me. But when we open attention and notice that the body is included, it's almost like the body is being drawn, being imagined, drawn to draw the picture. It's included, both are included. When we suck out the belief that I'm the one drawing as a body mind, to perhaps that's the difference between recognizing between choice and choicelessness. But what would it be like? What would it be like if the ability to think was still there, but the ability to say, I'm thinking, was not? So in any given moment, that which is noticing can notice which sense of self is being identified with. Me, the thought, I like this, I don't like that. This shouldn't be happening. He shouldn't have said that. What am I going to say tomorrow? The me thought. Myself, the body, or I. So when we start to listen to people talking, if we start listening to which I is being pointed to, we can study it. Like, oh yeah, I hate myself, I love myself, translate to thinking is hard on the body. Somebody says I hate myself, well, guaranteed they don't know who their selves are. Believe me, speak from experience on that one. when we believe we are our bodies and our bodies hurt, the contraction is so strong, then the mind goes to war. With the body. That's hell. That's the definition of suffering. And just notice where attention went. No, we don't have to spend our whole day relaxing attention, but once we have the distinction of how attention is being paid, then when there is contraction, we can ask the magic question. Wait. What is the container for this distress? People say my back hurts. That's a container. It's a very small container. And that's the body. My back hurts. I have pain in my shoulder. And then if we're body identified, we think that's the container. And they have hard edges and they're independent objects. But if I open attention, I'm like, no, the moment is the container. Then the pain has somewhere to go. The body may not go anywhere, or it may disappear completely in your experience because it's also made of sensation. But it doesn't have to. The pain can have the bigger container. Biggest container of the space of the moment. It's like those Russian dolls. The littler they are, the more they suffer. The littler I perceive myself to be, the more suffering there is. Oh, sorry, John. I just saw your message, dear. I sure will. I leaned away from the microphone, I think.
It's all good.
Wonderful. And let's just take about 2 or 3 more minutes for this process. And like I said, you could continue on your own to do the last little bit. Does anybody need a break? We're going to end probably in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, great. I realized for next time, I don't have to do an art piece. I can just do it. So I can just talk through it. That may be a little, live and learn. And just start bringing that part to a close, knowing that you can come back to it whenever it feels right to do so. And then just take a moment and really look at the drawing. How much control, really, did thinking have? If you were a baby, would there be any way you could put any judgment on what came out? If there are judgments, maybe write those down, because that's what you were taught and didn't question, maybe until now. But if you didn't trust the people who taught you who you were, well, maybe you shouldn't trust that belief. Course in Miracles says we give everything all the meaning it has. Isn't that the truth? I shouldn't have put that circle there. That line is too fat. That line is too thin. Who says? I believe that would be my mother's voice. Or my father's voice, or my teacher's voice. It was anything but my voice. And then this voice, this loud voice, speaks the voices in her head. Well, that's me. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Ella, do you want us to show us your picture before you go? Let me put us on gallery. If you want to.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Okay, I can, but I don't think like I follow all the directions. So how do I do that like that?
It's beautiful.
Oh, of course it is.
It sure looks like. So one thing when you continue it,
Uh-huh.
see the circle. Let me hold it up again.
I'm not sure which way, like, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter which way. Doesn't matter. Yes. So you see how maybe it's little, but just make sure. I see a couple of lines that may not be softened. Just watch out for that. There should be no angles at all. I can't.
You mean some angles that are still not softened?
Yes, like the
Oh.
thick, yeah, the thick line especially, I see it coming out like that. And so it's in the beginning when you start to do this process, it's really easy to overlook.
Yes,
When
yes.
so when you go back, just soften it. Beautiful.
Okay.
Is there
Okay.
anything you want to close with? Anything you want to say or contribute?
Not sure. Thank you so much. I was like so into it that didn't really have any thoughts of, but I appreciate it and felt really great to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. So if you want to take my email address and when you're done, send it to me. I'll do a little, oh, and tell you, I never charge on the POK. It's all for free on the POK website, but thank you. I really appreciate that.
Oh, it's very generous of you. Thank you so much.
I love doing it. Now let me do one more thing. We're about to do it, is just take another 2 minutes and just free associate again into the listening and just write what the words that come to you now as opposed to your other list, and just see what happens. So you don't have to stay for that, but that's the
Okay.
closing piece of it.
Yeah.
So let's everybody else do that.
I
Thank you,
need to
Ellen.
go, but I
Nice.
appreciate it a lot.
Uh-huh.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tony, your hair's so long. Last time I saw her, it was not that long. That's great. Again, just relaxing back into that silence. So we're not journaling or anything. It's not on purpose. We're just dictating what words come out now, what arises out of you as silent in response to what we just did. Wonderful, wonderful. And now if anybody wants to show their art, turn on your microphones, share about your experience, as much or as little as you want. That would be awesome. Whoa, love that.
This was a lot of fun, and I've been wanting to learn this technique, so it's just so sweet to have you be the one.
Thank you. And there are so many different types of it that it's all over YouTube, but I'm really glad you're here. Thank you, Tony.
Me too.
They're so great.
Thank you for this selfless act of sharing.
Oh, Charlotte, I love that. I almost see a face in it. Oh, Kelly, you got yours all the way done, Kelly. That's amazing. Good for you. Okay, Leslie. Got it. Priorities. Priorities. Do you want to show your picture? Can we see what you did? Oh, wow. That looks like stained glass. Just beautiful. Make sure to send it to me when you're done. Okay, William. Oh, wow. I love that. Isn't it amazing what comes out? Just beautiful. All right. I think that's it. I did not color mine. I did not color mine yet, but I will, and I'll include it in the little gallery. So thank you so much for joining me. It was super fun, and I always get as much as I give out of it. But Course in Miracles says it's the same thing. So yay. Blessings to everyone. Have a great rest of your day or night. And thank you for coming. Bye.